The worldview of abortionists. Conservatives view an abortionist as a person with a position on the humanity of the fetus that lack humanity. The natural thing for a conservative to do is debate the arguments put forward by the abortionist to justify the dehumanization of the fetus. As a consequence of this way of seeing the issue, pro-choice defenders argue a woman has full bodily autonomy and conservatives attempt to broaden the debate to encompass the humanity of the child. A few for pro-choice argue the fetus is not human. This is a fairly weak position. Conservatives counter the claim by questioning what the child is, if it is not human. What is the fetus of an animal called? At what point does a fetus become human? If we do not consider a fetus to be human when the egg is fertilized, at what point in its development does its human nature emerge? These are all good arguments, but they tend to miss the point abortionist makes. When the abortionist argues for "my body, my choice," she is making a power argument, not a moral one. It is her body, she has the power to do with it as she will. The nature of a fetus is irrelevant. To claim bodily autonomy is also not a moral argument. Bodily autonomy does not mean she has gained the moral authority to make killing babies morally acceptable. It is a strictly technical problem. Regardless of what anyone says, ultimately the woman can. The ability to do is tantamount to the right to do. Liberalism manifests the dual doctrine of power. Might makes right and the end justifies the means. Every policy and program of liberalism rests on this dual principle. The moral argument of atheists is the same as the ethical argument. They confuse the two. Moral rights are based on moral legitimacy. Humans have a moral right only when there is no logical way to deny this right. We do not have the moral right to deprive others of life without due process, or we will risk suffering the same fate. This is why Scripture tells us not to judge lest ye be judged by the same measure. We are permitted to judge and indeed must judge, but we ought not judge in ways that are subjective. Do unto others, and you would have done unto you, is another way of stating this same truth. The point is that the world is created in a specific way. Only what is real and true makes sense. Moral truths are logical truths. It may be legal to own a coal mine, but it is not logical or morally right. Humans did not create any of the world's resources. The state has no moral justification for claiming parts of the world. It has no moral authority to license sections of to private interests. We do not own what we did not create, and we cannot claim what was not created by us. The fetus is not part of the mother's body, but it is dependent on it. But this does not mean the mother has authority over it. The mother does not have control of her body viscerally. She can use it for her personal use, but she did not create it and she cannot claim ownership of it. The only justification for undergoing an abortion is that the woman has power over her body, and she has the willingness to exercise that power. One day this power will be removed from her and all of us. What is God's will return back to God, and we will be left with what we have created. At this time, an accounting will be held. We will all have to pay for what we have consumed, used, and destroyed. Like the servants, we can only hope that we have invested what we were given wisely. In the mind of an atheist, what he or she has power over he or she owns. The atheist's worldview is summed up in the aphorism, "My body, my choice." It's not your body, and it is not your choice. You are not your own, you belong to God. You were not given this body or this baby for your own purpose, but for the purpose of God. The choice you do have is to destroy and waste the opportunity and wealth you were given or invest yourself in it. We are the servant, not the master, and we do not get to decide who lives and who dies.